The Paleo-European languages is a designation for the languages that were spoken in Europe prior to the spread of the Indo-European and Uralic families which dominate the continent today. The term Old European is also often used more narrowly with reference to the unknown languages of the first Neolithic farmers in Central Europe and the Balkan peninsula, who appear to have immigrated from the east around the year 6000 BC. A similar term, Pre-Indo-European, is used to refer to the disparate languages mostly displaced by Proto-Indo-European language speakers as they migrated out of the urheimat. It is therefore a proper superset of the Paleo-European languages, including them and many other languages spoken in the Middle East and South Asia before Pi speakers arrived. Traces of lost Paleo-European languages. The prehistoric Paleo-European languages are not attested in writing. The only access to them we have are place names and especially river names that are found all over Central and Western Europe, and possibly loanwords in the Indo-European languages now spoken there. Attested Paleo-European languages and reconstructed substrates. Paleo-Hispanic languages. Vasconic Basque, the only thriving Paleo-European language. Aquitanian, a close relative or direct ancestor of Basque. Other Iberian may be relative to Aquitanian and Basque, but not confirmed. Tartessian, unclassified, possible relative to Iberian, if not relative to Indo-European. C. Celtiberian. Other Paleo-Hispanic languages can only be identified indirectly through toponyms, anthroponyms or theonyms cited by Roman and Greek sources. Most inscriptions were found written in the Phoenician and Greek alphabets. Very little to minimum evidence of Paleo-alphabets or hieroglyphics found present. Most were incompatible and indecipherable. Paleo-European languages of Italy. Ticenian languages Etruscan, possibly not native to Italy but immigrated from the Aegean region in the late Bronze Age. Raretic Lemnian language in Aegean area. Paleo-Sardinian language, possibly relative to the extinct native Iberian language of the Iberian Peninsula, or alternatively an Afro-Asiatic branch dialect from North Africa. North Piscean language. Sicanian language. Paleo-European languages of Aegean area. Pre-Greek substrate. Minoan. Etiocretan may be a descendant of Minoan, but this is uncertain. Cypro-Minoan. Etiocypriot may be a descendant of Cypro-Minoan. Language of the Phaistos disk. North Europe. Germanic substrate hypothesis. British Isles. Goidelic substrate hypothesis. One of two Pictish languages. Pre-Finno-Ugric substrate. Other. Sometimes Caucasian languages are also included in Paleo-European, but the Caucasus region is often considered to be in Asia, at least partly, depending on the definition of the Europe-Asia border used. Theories about Paleo-European languages. There are many theories about these languages. The German linguist Theo Veneman assumes that most languages of Neolithic Europe were related to Basque, and claims to have found evidence for this in the Old European hydronymy. Most of his colleagues, however, remained unconvinced. Jörg Riemeyer, a German amateur scholar, speculates that some of them, those reflected in the Old European hydronymy, belonged to a language family related to the Indo-European languages. Others, such as Octavia Alexandra, a Catalan amateur scholar, assume that most Paleo-European languages belong to a phylum called Vasco-Caucasian, a hypothesis that has not yet convinced most linguists. However, it appears as if the Mediterranean region was home to a substantial number of language families. 4 have survived and 2 today, and there is evidence for several others still existing in ancient times, while the area north of the Alps may have been dominated by a single, large family. According to the evidence of the Old European hydronymy, in late Neolithic Neolithic times. This complies well with the results of archaeological research on the spread of Neolithic agriculture in Europe. It is widely assumed that in the south, the spread was cultural, i.e., the Mesolithic people adopted farming from neighbors already practicing it, while in the north, it was demic, i.e., by farmers moving in from the east, displacing or assimilating the Mesolithic peoples. Under this model, the Mediterranean Mesolithic linguistic landscape would have changed little but from the spread of underwater for agricultural concepts, while north of the Alps, the migrating farmers would have established a single new family, preserving from the Mesolithic languages only a few words pertaining to local wildlife and perhaps hunting techniques. This is exactly what can be assumed on the grounds of the linguistic evidence. If anything can be said about the lost Paleo-European languages on the basis of what we find in the attested ones, Basque, the Caucasian languages and Etruscan, we can say that the Paleo-European were synthetic languages with rich inflectional morphology and diverse morphosyntactic alignments. The Caucasian languages have very rich phoneme inventories and seem to always have had, but Basque and Etruscan have more moderate phoneme inventories, perhaps reflecting an old east-west cline. Neolithic. There is no direct evidence of the languages spoken in the Neolithic. Some proponents of paleolinguistics attempt to extend the methods of historical linguistics to the Stone Age, but this has little academic support, criticizing scenarios which envision for the Neolithic only a small number of language families spread over huge areas of Europe. Donald Rinch has argued on general principles of language geography, and the scanned remains of non-Indo-European languages attested in ancient inscriptions, that Neolithic Europe must have been a place of great linguistic diversity, with many language families with no recoverable linguistic links to each other, much like Western North America prior to European colonization. Discussion of hypothetical languages spoken in the European Neolithic is divided into two topics: Indo-European languages and Pre-Indo-European languages. Early Indo-European languages are usually assumed to have reached Europe in the Chalcolithic or early Bronze Age, e.g., with the corded Warabica cultures. The Anatolian hypothesis postulates arrival of Indo-European languages with the early Neolithic. Old European hydronymy is taken by Hans Krahe to be the oldest reflection of the early presence of Indo-European in Europe. Theories of pre-Indo-European languages in Europe are built on scant evidence. The Basque language is the best candidate for a descendant of such a language, but since Basque is a language isolate, there is no comparative evidence to build upon. Theo Veneman nevertheless postulates a Vasconic family, which he supposes had coexisted with an Atlantic or Semitidic group. Another candidate is a Tyrrhenian family which would have given rise to Etruscan and Raretic in the Iron Age, and possibly also Aegean languages such as Minoan-Pelasgian in the Bronze Age. In the north, a similar scenario to Indo-European is thought to have occurred with Uralic languages expanding in from the east. In particular, while the Sami languages of the indigenous Sami people belong in the Uralic family, they show considerable substrate influence, thought to represent one or more extinct original languages. The Sami are estimated to have adopted a Uralic language less than 2,500 years ago. Some traces of indigenous languages of the Baltic area have been suspected in the Finnic languages as well, but these are much more modest. There are early loanwords from unidentified non-IE languages in other Uralic languages of Europe as well. Links. Rinch 2009. Ikeo 2004. Takinen 2012.